Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
John, do you think somehow we are dating ourselves by some of the lyrics in our intro there?
What would that be, Brad? What's dated about that?
Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll is pretty much dead, wouldn't you say? There's no new rock and roll artists anymore, are there?
I disagree with you, because on our publicly funded St. Louis Public Radio, I just read a captivating story over the weekend. And by read, I mean I read the headline about some black guy who says that he's been in rock and roll for a long time and he was castigated because he's black, and black people called him an Uncle Tom and a sellout. So, Brad, the mere presence of that story suggests to me that rock and roll is still around.
Well, John, when I think of rock and roll, and, you know, I'm amongst them, so I can say these kind of things. When I think of rock and roll, I think of like a bunch of KSHE listeners getting together and they have to put their walkers over in one corner. You know what I mean? And if they're going to eat, they have to put their dentures back in. And you know what I'm saying, John? To me, those...
Yeah, I understand. And I did just on the live stream get a note from Huey Lewis. And he said the heart of rock and roll is still beating, but it has to go see its cardiologist every 6 months.
And Huey Lewis is in terrible physical condition. You know that about him? He can't sing anymore. He's got some kind of weird disease or something like that. He can't.
Oh, wow. Is it called old age?
No. He's... Hey, I'm old. I'm 90 and I can still talk. So that is John Combest, Combest. I spell his name because you need to type that into your computer, your smartphone, whatever you have, your iPod, your tablet. Combest. Put a John in front of it, put a .com on the tail end of it, and you get his website every single day for the past 23 years. How many days have you missed in 23 years, John?
0.0.
By the way, did I say this is September 3rd and this is the A block? Did I say that already? I don't think I did.
I don't think you have, Brad.
The reason I do that is because we do the show live 7 to 8 o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday, except on Monday on Labor Day when John doesn't want to do it, but that's a whole other story. And anyway, we do the show every single day live, but a lot of people listen to us in the future on bjshow.co, bjshow.us. That's in order. That's the podcast and the video podcast sites you can take a look at. And the reason I mentioned the date is because it puts into reference what we talk about. Having said all that, we bring along this guy right here. Your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And you start off John's countdown with number...
In third place.
This is a story that's number 3 that would ordinarily be number 2 or number 1 if number 1 wasn't taking all the oxygen out of the room this week. We'll get to that in a moment. Artificial intelligence. Brad Hildebrand is a fan of it. John Combest is kind of a fan of it, except for when Brad Hildebrand uses it. And I'll tell you somebody that's not a big fan of big tech using big AI, and that's Josh Hawley. You know, Brad, that Josh Hawley is not only not a fan of Facebook, but he's not a fan of how Facebook and Meta and Instagram, you know, Facebook and Instagram are under the Meta umbrella, are using artificial intelligence. And he got together with a bunch of other Republican senators yesterday and wrote yet another strongly worded letter to Facebook, more specifically asking what Facebook is doing to protect children and teens from what might be inappropriate artificial intelligence conversations. And I think the impetus of all this, Josh Hawley's been talking about this for a couple weeks, but I guess the impetus of Meta's artificial intelligence. And by the way, Brad, this is brought to us by National Review. Meta's artificial intelligence chatbot appeared to send intimate and suggestive messages to underage users. Meta immediately placed temporary restrictions on its AI bots to prevent them from responding to teens if the teens bring up self-harm, eating disorders, or, quote, potentially inappropriate romantic conversations. In addition, Meta is limiting teen access to certain AI characters. Now, Brad, because you're a boomer, I know you're big into Facebook, and I don't know how Facebook uses this type of technology on the Facebook platform, but I know in Instagram, if I go into search and I start typing a few letters, like the Brad and Bron John show, maybe, it'll automatically give me some information and then ask me if I want to learn more. So as I understand it, Brad, Meta has its own children, essentially teenage version of Instagram with stripped down features. I guess some kids were chatting with one of these AI bots, and the one of the descriptions I heard of it was that the AI chatbot was being flirty with the kids via text message. So to me, Brad, this is less to do with the content probably and more about the fact that Josh Hawley continues to be on the side of saying, hey, big tech and particularly Meta, we're on to you. We're going to be hounding you and asking you a lot of questions about your technology.
I don't know if I told you this, John. The other day, I decided I've got pictures in my office, and the one picture I don't have of someone I admire is Josh Hawley. So I went into ChatGPT. I've got an account there, and I'll use it quite a bit. And I said, ChatGPT, can you give me a portrait of Josh Hawley so I can hang in my office?
And did it send you to Home Depot, Brad?
No, it sent me a picture of him climbing a ladder. And
yeah, Home Depot, that's a ladder thing, yeah.
Right.
That's a ladder joke, Brad. You know what? I think that we should limit ladder jokes to once a week. Matter of fact, once again, let's limit it to once a week.
Did I say something about it yesterday?
No, but so this is that was your mention for today, and it's a short week, so you've already met your quota.
I think there's a problem that Andrew Bailey, there's a staff position open on 97.1 because
yeah.
Andrew Bailey.
I thought you said Dan Buck was filling that, Brad.
Well, Andrew Bailey's no longer on the staff of 97.1, but there's a problem that his replacement has one show he won't go on. I don't know if you know this. Do you know this crazy story?
No, I don't know this at all.
Josh Hawley will not go on Mark Reardon's show in the afternoon.
Oh yeah, you've told me this alleged beef before. So you've relayed a secondhand account.
Oh no.
Mark Reardon didn't like the fact that Josh Hawley wouldn't do something, and now they have some sort of Cold War going on.
No,
right?
not a secondhand story. Mark Reardon has told this story several times.
Yeah, so you're relaying it now, which is secondhand. Yeah, but Reardon says that one time he wanted Hawley to come on, and Hawley didn't want to talk about some topic, right?
No. He asked him a question when they were air one time, and supposedly there was a list of questions. Come on, you've seen how this happened. The PR people send, like if someone's going to interview him, they said, okay, here's a list of questions you might want to ask our senator or whatever he is. And
is that how it works?
Yes, that's how it works, John. And Mark did not pay attention to the list and went totally off the list and asked him some questions that he wasn't apparently ready for. And Josh got mad, and now will never talk with Mark Reardon again. So.
Well, and that sounds like a bit of an overreaction. If any of that is true, it sounds like the first part of it's true. It would seem like that's a little bit of an overreaction. So let's get back to the original story, Brad, is that it looks like Hawley is going to be hounding Meta about this and will be hounding them about anything for perpetuity.
Here's what Josh Hawley should be hounding Meta about. Anybody who spent any time on Facebook will know what I'm talking about. These ads that are obviously 125% bogus. The ads for these products that you go like, okay, that's bogus. Or you see these news articles, which aren't even news articles. They're just bogus BS stuff. And I'm going like, okay, you can't get on there. Back in the day, you couldn't get on there if you said anything about the COVID vaccine or ivermectin or anything like that. Bang, you were
thrown out of Facebook forever. You were at least in Facebook jail.
Right.
Or it would be like Shelley Barr threatening to throat punch you.
Right, which she's done, and that's why I can barely talk anymore. See, that's the interesting thing for me. I see these ads on there almost daily, and they're like bogus ads.
And they're for fake products, right? It's like, use the super vacuum thing, and then you click on it, and it's actually some drop shipper bringing something in from Temu or something.
Okay, I can give you one perfect example of this. And a guy who, at one point in time, someone sent me this off of Facebook. This is probably 7, 8, 9 years ago. A way to fix cracks in your windshield of your car. And it was like this, and it was like, hey, this is what you do is you mix this up. You use a little baking soda and some alcohol, and then you put it on there with a Q-tip, and the crack in your windshield's gone. And there's people selling this product on Facebook. Trust me, it doesn't work. It's total BS. Because if that were the case, all the glass companies would go out of business because everybody would be out in their driveway mixing up this
doing
crap
it themselves, right? And so
stick-
the question is, at a certain point, if people complain enough, Facebook's going to take it down. But Facebook doesn't have the time or the manpower to vet every potential person that purchases ads on their platform, right?
But if they have the manpower, and you know how this was, John, it's still to this day on Facebook, if I mention certain things, the Facebook disclaimer comes on there automatically. There's certain...
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. And you know what? Mike Kehoe gave a disclaimer to people in story number 2. Let's get to it.
Oh, is this about the he's getting rid of the St. Louis Police Department? Is that what this is?
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Up a notch to number 2.
He's getting rid of the St. Louis Police Department, Brad. No, but seriously, folks. Headline from Mark Schlinkman, Austin Hugh Galley, and Kurt Erickson from the Post-Dispatch. Kehoe withdraws his 5 St. Louis Police Board picks as special session nears. Brad, was this in your top 3 today for B Block?
No, not necessarily. Part of it was, but I mean, this is like much ado about nothing.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, Brad, because you would read the headline and you would say, "Oh no, what's going on here?" And Brad, I presume that you've looked into this a little bit. As Austin and Mark and the big bowl of smiles, Kurt Erickson, point out here, that Governor Kehoe is taking these police board appointees off the table because he anticipates the Democrats will be unhappy during this extraordinary session, which we may or may not talk about in story number 1. And so he knows that if he takes them off the table, there will be nothing for Democrats. Well, excuse me, there will be one fewer issue for Democrats to filibuster. In other words, according to this Post-Dispatch story, Democrats could say, hey, we need to address those police board picks, and then use that as an excuse to filibuster and this extraordinary redistricting and initiative petition session. So Kehoe saying, okay, I'm withdrawing it. I'm going to put these folks back on, but we're just going to take these guys off the table right now.
Well, also, if I'm not mistaken, there's a 30-day rule. Did you talk about that at all? Did you know about that with the 30-day rule?
Yeah, we've talked about that here before on this very show, Brad.
Right. The 30-day rule is that if the Missouri legislature is in session, he has 30 days to, or I guess the legislature has 30 days to approve the police board. Isn't that what it is?
And if they don't act on it, they have to go away.
Right, they have to go away. So in other words, because of the fact that they're in session, technically starting today, the clock starts and they have to act within 30 days of approving the people. And the problem with that is the legislature won't be in session in 30 days because they'll be gone by then, right? Isn't that pretty much the deal?
Yeah. And Brad, as you so effortlessly do, and always unwittingly, that leads us into story number 1.
Must be about special session.
The number 1.
The whispering voice you hear, Brad Hildebrand, is correct. It is about special session. Today, at high noon, an extraordinary session of the Missouri legislature to discuss brand new redistricting maps and initiative petitions. We talked about this in detail yesterday on the show. So if you're listening in the future, and most of you are, you can go to Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts. You can go to YouTube and you can listen to us discuss the maps. So today, Brad, there are many stories up about redistricting. I think my favorite quote of them all came from the Post-Dispatch. Kurt Erickson quoted State Representative LaKeySha Bosley. Yes, a member of the famed Bosley family. She, as you might presume, isn't a fan of redistricting. And Erickson quotes her as saying, the proposed map is racist because it targets a big word, it targets Emanuel Cleaver in Kansas City. And LaKeySha Bosley, here's my favorite part. She says that this map could result in mass protests if it's adopted. Brad, do you think a bunch of urban folks would be so outraged about congressional redistricting that they would take to the streets this fall?
John, do you want to know my opinion? Do you really want to know my opinion?
I really do.
I think what they should do is they should flip the first and third congressional districts, and I think Bob Onder should have North City and North County, and he'd have to move to Florissant, and they put Wesley Bell out in St. Charles County. I think that would work very well. What do you think, John?
Yeah, we could get Lindsey Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis to star, and we could call it Freakier Friday.
You know, this thing is such a joke. The whole thing's such a joke because I heard somebody over the weekend. Matter of fact, I think I heard it on Armstrong and Getty, one of the replay shows on Saturday or Sunday. And they had a guest on, and the guest essentially said, this could all be fixed very easily with every single state. And what they do is they would just draw boxes. And the size of the box would expand or collapse as the population changes. So in other words, like in Missouri, you start up in northern part of Missouri and you draw a box. And then you keep drawing boxes, and every time you have the redistricting or the census thing, which used to be when you redistricting, you just expand or you close the box. Super simple. And that way, you don't have this crazy weird thing like with the Pac-Man thing where Bob Onder has this crazy weird district that like curves around and goes all the way over to Illinois on one side, if I'm not mistaken, up there like in the extreme western, or excuse me,
West Alton. Yeah.
Yes, West Alton, extreme eastern part of St. Charles County. And then you have this crazy weird district where the city of Columbia is divided in half. Part of it's in one congressional district and the other one. And if I'm not mistaken, when they want to redraw Cleaver's district, don't they want to make it like go all the way to like Columbia or something like that?
Yeah. Make it stretch a little bit. Make it include part of the People's Republic of Columbia, People's Republic of Boone County. Now, Brad, your idea, I think, would work really well in a state like Wyoming or Utah that's pretty homogenous. And if I'm, for example, an African-American fella in St. Louis City, I say don't put me in one quadrant of a box that includes Hannibal based on population or includes whatever. And I think, Brad, also we have, unfortunately, for your argument, we have the Voting Rights Act, which says that we need to protect some minority districts, Brad.
It's like, remember we talked about this about, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you actually looked this up in the air because I'd looked at it ahead of time because the fact that Randy Raley's on Facebook all the time complaining about this, complaining about that, and he's going, what's her name, Mary Hill, is that who he's going against in Illinois?
Mary Miller. Yeah.
Okay. And remember how you looked it up on the air? Because I already looked at it, and the bizarre congressional districts in Illinois, you know what I'm talking about? It's just...
Yeah. It's a ridiculous... That District 15 is just absurd. It reaches, they call it, Brad, now curb your enthusiasm here. They call it the finger district.
Well, but the district that Randy Raley and what's-her-face are going after, if I'm not mistaken, from my memory, it goes from the Mississippi River, which would be the east or the western border of Illinois, all the way to Indiana. It's so bizarre. It's like, and then there's that weird finger that looks like some crazy thing that comes out of the Metro East, and I think that encompasses what, Edwardsville and Madison County and part of...
Yeah, and the bridge is the Madison County, and it goes all the way up, yeah.
It's just nutty stuff.
I know. They have, actually, and if you look at the map, the finger district touches the Gräfenberg district.
What's the Gräfenberg district, or should I ask? Am I being set up here?
I think that if you're a female listener, you should go ahead and... Actually, I think if you're a male listener, you should look up the Gräfenberg district as well.
Okay. We have to... Now
Brad, how would you shorten the last name Gräfenberg, Brad? What's the first letter?
A Q?
Yeah, there you go, Brad. It's your favorite letter.
Okay. Now that I have my GPS clock fixed, I realize we are 1 minute and 17 seconds over on this segment.
We got to get back on track, Brad.
We got to get back on track. Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be back